Hey everybody, this is Ty Givens. I am the creator of the Workforce Pro. And what we do is we help companies build their contact centers or their customer experience teams, whatever you call it, customer service, customer support. We help build it for scale. So I've worked with some brands like Thrive Market, which was super fast growing, and I've made a lot of mistakes, right? Also, I worked for Shoedazzle, and I helped to build their team for scale. And so now what I do is I want to help you build your team for scale. So I offer a wide range of services at various levels in order to help you set up your team. So working with me for a quarter is like getting a year's worth of results. I work really fast. Anyway, what you're about to witness is Coffee with Ty, which is a session that I'm doing, at least at this point, once a month. And everyone's invited. It's a no judgment zone. We're going to talk harsh realities and the wins, of course, of running or working in customer service, contact centers, customer experience, etc. So you don't have to be a customer experience team member. You could be a person who's just curious. Love to have you. So as you continue to watch, you're going to be kind of thrown in because I'm not a video editor. And you're in my home office right now, and I have terrible lighting, but I have a lot of heart. Oh, and I make typos. So you're going to see typos like you'll see the first slide says express your slough. That's typically me, but don't judge me on that. It just is what it is. So anywho, I hope that you enjoy this session, and I hope that you're able to make it to future sessions. Feel free to shoot me a message if you have any ideas of what I should cover next. I always keep a standby topic, but ultimately the conversation goes where it will. So you enjoy. This is the Coffee with Ty session from this past Tuesday, November 12th, and our next one is on December 10th. Thank you so much. This is something that comes up quite a bit when I'm talking to different companies, people, etc. And the discussion is around a new leader joining the company, and that new leader bringing in their own people. Okay. And when, they call it the changing of the guard or whatever they call it, but it is very typical in my experience that when a new leader joins the company, they often bring their own people. I am guilty of that myself. And it depends on what the goal is for said company. So because I typically work with like either a startup, look at my typo. That's typically me to do something fast and then it's there, but it is what it is. You know what? I'm only perfect on days that end with Y. Other than that, I'm not.
There we go.
Days,
there we go.
So, you know what I mean. So
we don't hold it against you.
What'd you say?
We don't hold it against you.
I appreciate it. So when you have, when I work with a company that typically by the time they bring me in, they're growing so fast, things are out of order, there's a lot of chaos, and literally 90% of the time, the team that I'm inheriting is super capable, but they just have never actually done the jobs that they're doing right now. When that happens, I have to bring in people who know how to do the jobs. So there's the what and the how, right?
Yep.
I can tell a novice person what to do, but because they've never done it, sometimes they need to know how to do it too. But if I am responsible for doing a quick turnaround, I have to bring in people who will be able to interpret my what, and they have their own how.
And do they know this before they sign the dotted line?
The companies?
Yes.
Sometimes. Because what I'll do is tell them that I need certain roles in order to like hit the goals that we have. There she is. Hey, Dana.
I made it.
You made it.
Lovely. technology. I made it.
Okay, thank you. We're recording now, and we're talking about when you join a company and you bring in your team members. And so I was saying how I was guilty of that. and, and Steve asked, does the company know? And I said, yeah, sometimes they do. Because what I'll say is I need certain roles. So for example, when I joined Shoe Dazzle, I did say that I needed workforce management and that I needed a training person because there was a lot of work to do in a short amount of time to turn things around, and I'm only one person. So that was clear that that's what I needed. When I went to Thrive Market, I personally waited way too late to bring in those key roles, and I made a lot of mistakes in the process, just in transparency. I wish that I had done it sooner. Because I think people walking into a certain environment are much better off and able to adapt than when you try to change it like midstream. What do you think?
And was that a month or two later, or?
Oh, let me see. Dana, do you remember when you came to Thrive?
I came in, I think it was April.
Was it? That was fast.
April. Yeah, but you were there. I think you were there probably for at least 3 months.
So then you didn't come in April, because you must have came in the fall, because I started in March.
Oh, I think it was August when I came in.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so Steve, for example, they were growing so fast. I was trying to do like all of the people management, all of the operations. We were doing like train the trainer with the agents. And what happened is like when you're hiring, like I started in March, and then when I walked in, I think there were 6 people. I was the 7th person. And then by the end of April, we had 30 people and I didn't have middle management.
Ooh.
Right. But I did that because I was like trying to, it was a startup they were doing well. I was trying to save money and like, well, I can do it all myself. But like all of that was a really bad decision, honestly, because I needed certain roles to set up the foundation and the structure. And I found it really difficult to communicate that need to my boss.
And you being the 7th person, were there 6? Is this only the customer service department?
Yeah.
Okay. And did the other 6, knowing when you came in and why, and probably were briefed before you came in, did they think that they would have a higher role in a few months? Or?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
they did, and some of them actually did.
Okay.
Some did. So that's a very good point. That's another thing. When you come in, like the promises that were made beforehand, like especially coming into a startup, a lot of times like customer service is seen as that entry point, right? Like you come in, you join the customer service team, and then, in 3 weeks you can be on marketing. And sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't, but I found that it doesn't happen as quickly when the company is fast growing. I find that you have opportunities to move into other roles when things are not as dire.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the people that you may thought would only be a customer service person, did they stay? Were they upset? Were they?
They were, some stayed, some were upset, some left.
Okay.
So it's almost like I hate to say it, it's something you expect, casualty of what happens when you're laying that foundation. It's like the team that typically starts out with you is not the team that's going to take you to the next level.
Right.
And that's the reality of it. And so like you try, like I always try to like build from within. So like going back to Shoe Dazzle, the team was basically like there was the customer support team, then there was social media, and then of course there were like supervisors and leads. And so like I introduced a quality assurance team and I introduced a workforce management team, and like those were transferable skills that they could use elsewhere. But the key to introducing those roles was having someone who understood those roles, which is why I had to bring in people that I knew how to do those jobs. So it was kind of like like in order for me to help you, I have to do these things, because ideally I would love to be able to say I can promote so-and-so to be the training manager. That would be great. But if they have zero experience on like building out curriculum, zero experience on training, then in essence, I have to teach them how to do their job amongst the 3,000 other things that are required. So.
And please let me know if I'm talking too much. But
no, this is good. Ask all the questions you want. That's what this is for.
At the 6 months when I believe Dana said she came in at that 6 months, how many people did you have then?
I'm gonna guess 40 or 50.
And then you mentioned you had a workforce management, and you used the word team.
Yeah.
How many people do you need to manage the 40 people? Because workforce management, basically their schedules, right?
Yeah, typically it's like forecasting, like predicting the workload, finding out how many people you need to do the work, scheduling the people to do the work, and then like all of your tracking analysis and reporting.
And that for 40 people, that's one person or two or
25-to-1 ratio typically.
Oh, okay.
But I pushed it. I had one person, and the thing is, it's like that role was so hard to fill. I made a really bad hire, and it was not good. And then so okay, here we go. This is why you bring your people, because I made a bad hire initially when I knew I could have brought in someone who could have done it the first time.
I see.
So I ended up bringing in the person that I knew could do it.
And Thrive, what did they sell?
So it's e-commerce, non-GMO products. So everything is like, made with good ingredients, and it mostly was, I don't know if they've changed their model so much, but it's mostly food products, and also like cleaning supplies and things like that.
I'm sorry, you said mostly food products?
Yeah, but non-perishables, at least at that time. So, like boxed goods, if you will. It wasn't anything that had to be refrigerated or frozen at that time.
And is it a subscription?
Yeah, subscription. So kind of like Costco meets Whole Foods.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, the concept was cool, and like when you bought a membership, you give away a membership. So there was like that part that made you feel good about working there. You felt like you're helping people.
And was there a number of people on the team that sold the subscriptions, or was this strictly inbound, answering the questions on the food, etc., or both?
It was strictly inbound. Now, the sales piece, if you will, was more of a retention piece. So, whoever marketing would get to come in as a trial customer or a member, if they decided to no longer continue, then that became our responsibility to try our best to retain them.
And were all of the sales online, or do they have people actually selling it?
Online.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and then it took 40, well, you said 40 people after 6 months or more.
Well, by the 9th month, we were at 100 plus.
Oh.
We did 2 site moves, which I'm proud of. There was no interruption of service with that. But that, again, was not a solo effort. That was because of the team. So, like, going back to that point of, like, why do leaders bring in their own people? You bring in people that you can trust, that can get it done and help you to achieve the goals for the company. So that wasn't a solo mission, the ability to be able to move the teams, the weekend work, the early hours, the late hours. I didn't do that by myself. I did that with my team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are crazy times, too.
We definitely earned our stripes, like between like different companies. Yeah. Even because Dana and I met back at Intuit, and then when we were at Shoe Dazzle, once the acquisition happened, Dana actually, it wasn't me, she trained or she facilitated, I don't know if you actively trained or if Aaliyah did it, but I remember you trained the site in the Philippines. Yeah.
Philippines and Mexico. We did both.
Yeah.
So me and my team, we trained, we did portions of the class throughout the day. So it was the whole team.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And in Mexico, what city in Mexico was it, if I may ask?
Tijuana.
It was Tijuana. Okay.
So that was the person I spoke to yesterday. he was talking about like having a need for near shore support based obviously on costs, because it's less expensive to, we all know that, to go to Tijuana than it is to do it in LA, obviously, but it's even less expensive to do it in the Philippines. So then there's the question of, where do I send my contacts? And I don't advocate for any like one or the other. It's really about like whatever the vision is for the client. When they ask me, have I seen BPOs work well? Like, sure, I've seen it work. But you have to manage the heck out of your partner. It's not like you can literally just hand it off and say, okay, now you go. You still have to have a person who understands what is expected of that partner in order to deliver, you know, the result that you're expecting, I think. What do you think?
I would definitely agree with that. I would agree that my success, we'll just take my successful clients always had to be managed.
Yeah.
And in my case, maybe a little different, down to the salesperson level, so that any of the work we were doing, I had to make sure it was in sync with this, because if they had all their own ideas, well, they can have all their ideas they want, but if they had all their own ways of doing it, I found they were not as successful as, okay, so you're going to handle this, and then you guys are going to handle these this way, so that we know you are. And then kind of go from there. And I know I keep getting off the beaten path too. I'd always heard that Monterrey, Mexico, was a big hub as well.
I hadn't heard that.
Oh,
okay. I haven't heard that. And I mean, doesn't make, I just haven't heard that, but maybe it is. Like,
being an hour flight out of Houston.
Okay.
And high tech. It really is. It's definitely not a Tijuana.
Okay.
It's more of a high tech Mexican city. And they still have, the lower wages, but they have the infrastructure, and they have the numbers of college graduates as well. And and you'll tell me that's what the Philippines has, correct?
Yeah, because their customer service is like an actual career.
Right.
Now, okay, so have you worked with a BPO out of Monterey?
Hand to hand, no.
Okay.
But the former company I worked with said they had worked with people there, but I had heard it before that, with a number of BPOs set up there, mainly because of the access to the U.S. You mentioned, and of course, that's only going back and forth, which is for some people a lot, others not. Tijuana is very accessible. I with Tijuana, I guess I would say the account type people or the senior type people, don't they all live in San Diego and go across, or
a lot of people do? Yeah, and that's kind of like their selling point. It's like it's so close that if you needed to go visit, you could actually go visit.
Okay.
Yeah. So I one of the, I don't know if you've had this experience. I'm definitely not against offshoring or outsource. Well, I am to a degree, honestly, but I'm not I don't fight it, if you will. I get it. It's cost efficient. But the reason why, because I'm so like customer centric, I'm so focused on the experience that the customers have. I am for it if it actually makes sense based on the product and the type, etc. But I found that one of the challenges is that if I guess the types of inquiries that are being handled are not mostly logic based, then you run into challenges with like the gray areas. Have you seen that too?
In dealing, I don't want to say I think you'd have to ask Dane on that one, or you already know her answer. I don't know.
No, I don't. Dana, what do you think? Like when we were training offshore, did you find that if it's not a yes and no kind of thing or a logic-based scenario, that the team might have struggled a bit with things where, it was you had to interpret or decide on what the outcome would be?
Yeah, they absolutely struggled with that, and their struggle was saying no.
Yeah.
Or how to say no and offer a different solution.
Yeah.
So they tended to, always say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then they would end up giving the wrong answer or, giving the bank away.
Yeah.
That's interesting you say that. In the U.S., wouldn't you have different tiers of people to handle that, or are you expecting that they handle whatever we give them?
So that's the fun part. Like you can decide what that looks like. So what I typically will do when, like in my space, like as a customer experience business partner working with other companies to build out their experience where I don't necessarily own it, I always recommend if they're going to do a partner that they send all of their logic-based inquiries. If they just feel that strongly about having a live person say yes or no, send that to a partner, and then anything that is in that gray area should come on shore. And to your point, would be handled by like an escalated tier, if you will.
Okay.
Because it's cheaper that way, right? Because most of especially if you're an e-commerce brand, I'm missing part of my order. It's, okay, they're missing part of their order. They're going to get some sort of make good. It's going to be a discount on their next order, or you're going to comp that particular product, or free shipping, or it's going to be something. It's going to be like, give them 1, 2, 3, bam and done, right? But when someone has like a consistent experience where they're missing part of their order or was late delivery and all that stuff, it gets to be a little bit more complicated. You have to get more creative. So you can have, 25 people doing the transactional quick yes or no things and pay very little for that. And then you might have, 4 people who you're paying the same amount that you would pay to those 25 realistically, but 4 people who are actually handling like the escalated, like things that are going to help you to really retain your customers. So it depends on your volume also, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. My thoughts, that's typically what I recommend, but I try to work with we had a client last year around this time, fast growing beauty brand, and they were hiring temps. Everything was onshore, still is. They were hiring temps because we're going into the holiday season, and they had long wait times and things like that. So what I did is I actually plugged in my team instead. They had some temps, but stopped them from hiring temps because you can pay upwards of an additional $10, $12, $15 an hour on top of the base for that temp. And then you bring that person in and you train them and you teach them how to do your work. And then, possibly 90 days later, they're done with you and they walk out with all of your knowledge. And so like, it's kind of like just throwing that money, in my opinion, away.
Yeah, you're almost paying twice.
Yeah.
Why you could outsource it on your own,
yeah,
rather than go through all that, and then you're the one training them as well.
Yeah. Yep. So what we do is we'll actually, like what we did with them, we took a percentage of their contacts. Now we didn't do live channels because I wanted to keep the price down. If we did live channels, obviously I'd have someone available, set number of hours. So what we did instead is like we kind of counter, supported them. So we had people there in the daytime, and then in the evenings we would take over, and then we would jump in on some of the weekends and take over and do like a lot of the emails. But as we were working the emails, we were also building a training curriculum for them and an internal help center. And I want to say we saved them like 30% of what they would have paid to the vendor. And the e-learning and everything that we set up, they still use today. And that was set up and used to train their onshore partner that we helped them set up at the end of last year.
Interesting.
So much better investment. And then you
And
walk away with something, you know?
Yes. And when you said their onshore partner, was that an outsourcer?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was. And so that was when I say I'm not against it, it's like, if I have a client who says, I want to send my contacts offshore, I'm not going to tell them no. I'm not going to say I won't do that. You know, I'll help them, you know, but this one, the question was, they knew they needed a partner. They wanted to be able to expand hours of operation. And then they wanted to really specialize the role. So we actually redid the requirements for the role that they had and went from, you know, just, you know, a support person who would do transactional things to like a true expert on their product. And we wanted the expertise on the product to be in-house, like in the building. And so we send all the transactional things to the partner, but one of the requirements for the partner was onshore. So I interviewed the partners, you know, we went through a whole requirements list. We considered pricing, the manager that because when I joined, there was no head. We found a fit. She's still there. And she actually went to 2 of the locations to visit these vendors to see which one felt right for them. And so ultimately they made the decision on who to go with. So I helped facilitate that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many agents did that entail?
I want to say it was 12 to 15 to start.
Okay.
And it was rocky because we did everything so quickly with that setup that the person that like, no business is going to say no to business around the holidays. Everybody's going to say yes. But they weren't actually ready, in my opinion, to take on what they took on. So like the person who was like the manager on site for the offshore, for the onshore partner, wasn't actually seasoned or prepared. So like there was some turnover, but now they're in steady state and things are much better now. But there were some growing pains at that point. We actually, once that team ramped up, we got to the point where it got super quiet here. It was like, wait a second, like, okay, now what do we do? Because most of the contacts were transactional. And remember, the people that were here in the US, I'm not in the US, but here on site or in LA, they were specialized, like, you know, beauty advisors. So it's different.
I see.
Yeah. It's not without, you know, I mean, there's opportunities. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, for the most part, like, I worked with them. It started off being 90 days. It extended to 6 months. And the processes that were put in place back then are still working just fine now.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I helped them scale a lot. So, now, when you, in your experience, when you join a company, are you joining companies that are new, or are you joining companies that are pretty well established most times?
So in my case, the last one was a startup, but all of those other companies or projects that I mentioned to you last week, in that email, most would be considered small to medium-sized businesses where they're 10 to 30 million. Okay. And then a few of them are, you know, very large. So there's been a bit of both. And actually, for many years, I grew with a company that went from, I don't know, 10 or 20, and they're well past 200. And that's over a span of 10 or 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at your career and you think about the startup that you most recently worked with versus the SMBs, what was your preference? And then what did you see as like opportunities in either space?
So, well, I think I can't talk for anyone else, but I would assume most people's preference is an ongoing concern because, you know, it's stable.
Okay.
But, you know, being involved in a startup you certainly can grow with them. So I don't want to put that aside.
Yeah.
So, it's probably a combination of both. And, even with these other companies that I've dealt with, they were very small to begin with. And people, it depends on your definition. Some people say that $5 to $10 million business is a very small startup anyway.
Yeah.
And they kind of, and they act like it. And some of them act like it even when they get to 30.
Yeah.
Because they don't make that adjustment.
Yeah.
And then they end up selling because they can't go on.
Yeah.
Which sometimes isn't a bad thing. But I kind of said a little mixture of everything.
No,
I don't know if I probably didn't answer your question, but
I think it's fair. I like working with I like working with companies regardless of age, I'll say, that are this is gonna sound really weird, but that are like in chaos. Because I know that
you like that.
I like that.
You said you like that. That's a question. Okay. All right.
Because
I think I like that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because it's like, there's a difference. Okay. To work there as an employee in the chaos, no.
Okay.
To come in as a partner.
I'm in agreement there. Yeah.
100%. And the reason why is because when you work there, things move so much slower than when you come in to just do the fix. When you come in to do the fix, I can get done, a year's worth of work in a quarter because I'm just focused on, hacking at these issues and building this foundation for scale. And I like that. Now, when you're like in it and you work through it, the environments can sometimes be toxic. There's a lot that goes into it that makes it undesirable for me. But I wouldn't want to work in that. But as far as like coming in to fix it, I live for that all day long. I find it fun. And sometimes when I talk to people and they're like, we're a mess, I'm like, yeah, you're not that bad actually. Like I've seen worse. I've seen worse. Like we'll get it together. So I like that, in the space that I'm in today. I wouldn't say that I would love it to work there.
From a training standpoint, from my background, I find that working in businesses like that that have issues and they're trying to figure out their processes. That's the part of training that I love is working out processes, defining those processes, and then teaching them to folks. I love when someone has been doing a certain function a certain way, and then I show them an easier way to do it, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's so much better."
Yeah.
That's what I.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
So both of you are able to give a lot to. In other words, your value is much higher.
When you say that,
your value is much higher in those environments, meaning all your experience.
Yeah. Because
and maybe that's why you like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, here's something. So when I met Dana, it was in 2006 at Intuit, but it was actually a small company that got acquired by Intuit, and that was probably as a middle manager there, that was probably one of the most fun times I had at work. Like I look back at it, and it was
it was a good time.
Good time, like and. We used to actually like enjoy going to work. And I remember I joined a company not long ago, and so there was this conversation about like having conflict in the room with the executives. Like there was a feeling that executives should have healthy conflict and should disagree and all those good things. And I don't doubt that, but I don't look to find a reason to be upset with someone. I don't have time with that. I'm mostly cool, calm, and collected, like 99% of the time. And so when I was in that environment, the example that I used is like at the time when I was at Intuit, I was heading up workforce management for our division. Dana was heading up training. And we would go into meetings and have real, true, deep disagreements. Dana would be like, well, I need, to train everyone on this product and it's going to take, 50 hours. Now we'd be like, well, we can't afford that and we can't do it. And so we have to figure out something else. And we would like literally be at an impasse. And then it would be lunchtime. And I'm like, are you hungry? Where are we going to go? And we could totally separate because I understood that she had a job to do. She understood that I had a job to do. And our conflict was healthy, but it wasn't manufactured. It wasn't forced. It was just what it was.
And we also were able to compromise in the end.
Yeah, because we both had goals, and so leaving from that environment, I found a lot of people that we worked with during that era, they've not lasted at companies for like more than a year and a half. And it's because a lot of companies say that they create these environments where you can grow and learn and blah, blah, blah. And okay, maybe they do or they think they do. But I'll tell you this, when I was at Intuit, we were required to do 40 hours of training a year. When I left Intuit and I was focused on my MBA, the coursework that I was doing in my MBA was the same coursework that I was doing at Intuit. So essentially, they were giving us free MBA courses while you work there to help build your leadership skill. Wow. So there were like things like that just really set them apart. So like we were spoiled. So when we went to go work at other companies, it was like when they were like, oh, we're employee centric. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that look like? I'm like, this is not employee centric because, trying to compare. It was like, the best boyfriend ever and you break up and you're trying to compare everybody to him.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, never gonna
I can't respond to that. But you guys met at Intuit and you were workforce type and Dana was training. So do you go into different projects and companies right now as a team together, or you bring in call center managers, or is there a typical?
I always will leverage Dana when I need that for sure. Because I don't just focus on WFM anymore. I do the whole thing. Right. But I also know that she's an expert in her right. So like, let's say that I have a project to like redesign a help center. I'll have her help me do that kind of stuff. So she'll partner with me and she'll take on that piece. Because I know that I can say, hey, this is what we need to do. And I can hand it to her and then she'll run with it. And it's somebody that I trust, Yep. And so depending on what it is that needs to get done, like when I have projects that come up, Dana and I literally talk every day. So I'll be like, oh, this is what's happening next, so that she knows in case she wants to jump on.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps to like that. I mean, that's why I am, when I'll say there was a point in time in my career when, we'll go back to Intuit. We had a changing of our VP of customer care. And when the new person came in, he brought in, his people. And at that time, I did not like that because I wanted the next step. I wasn't ready, but I didn't know I wasn't ready. But I didn't like it. And then, as I grew in my career and I moved into roles, I began to understand like, oh, that's why he did it. Because you want people to work with you who know what you expect, that you've already, had some growing pains with, who is going to really help you to do, your best work as well. So that's why sometimes you bring your own people in.
Yep.
Yeah. I know people don't like that, but it's the truth. Yeah. So this was good though, I think. What do you think?
I think so too.
Yeah.
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 I enjoyed it.
I appreciate you taking the time to do this. both Dana and yourself. And yeah, certainly if there are any of those types of projects or roles where that call center person, even at a little lower role, just to see,
Yeah.
please keep me in mind.
I will. So these are the ones that I know about right now. So there's 2 e-commerce companies looking for heads of CX, both out of LA. It's mid-level CX, so it's a lot of day-to-day people management. And there is a contact center aspect. And then there's a VP of professional services, a SaaS company out of Boston. And this one is like B2B on client onboarding, and assisting with customized build outs. And then there's a beauty brand in LA looking for part-time CX people. But they need to be able to work weekends. So
I see.
yeah, so I have your information, and then I can send them out and see if there's some interest there, and do an introduction for you. But like, I'm at the point now where it's funny when I talk to people, sometimes they think that I just have like this Rolodex of CX people that are on standby. And I'm like, well, most people that I feel that strongly about, I've already like helped them if they needed help, like get placed, or they're already in a place where they're happy. Because like the great people are always in roles already.
That's right. That's right. And they
So-
always say the great positions are not online.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like now I'm at a point where I wanted to like open up a way for me to be able to talk to and meet people. Cause we were going back and forth. So like, this is recorded, obviously. Other people will be able to hear it. If somebody hears this, they might say, hey, like, who's that Steve person? I'm looking for a role that he would be great for, because you've essentially interviewed during this process. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I'm like interested in like talking to more people that I can help. Like, we can have these kinds of dialogues and, agree or respectfully disagree, but just, discuss things about CX in general. And then maybe when I have clients who are looking for these roles, I have referrals of people, that I've had some conversations with, that I'm building relationships with, and I can feel confident saying, I think you should meet this person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Certainly. And you said the Boston position, that's remote?
It's remote. Yeah.
Meaning that's anywhere, or remote in Boston?
Anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Anywhere. It's a great company. The person so they're a client of mine, obviously.
Right.
I worked with their head of ops on a different project when she was with a different company. When she joined this company, she brought me in to help optimize their workflows. So we're just finalizing phase 1 of the workflow optimization, moving into the systems piece, and we're going to be changing the people structure. And so as she's helping to like really form this new team, this is one of the roles that they're looking to fill.
I see.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and it's remote.
Mm-hmm. The whole company, well, I mean, they have an office, but like I did as a part of the workflow optimization project, I spent a lot of time talking to their team members in various locations.
I see.
And everybody, like when they would come on and everyone would turn on their camera, people were like in their bedrooms, because most people were working at home.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the new way of the world.
It sure is. Yeah.
I like it.
Right. Like, okay, just a quick side note. So last night when we were at dinner, my friend and I, and she, she was a former client, but a former direct report, and now just a really good friend. Like, I adore her. And we were talking about how different the workspace is. And I told her I do my best work while watching true crime, which is weird, but I do. And she said she writes really well when she's watching Law and Order. And we were saying, like, how does that translate into the workplace, though? Because I can remember at Thrive Market, like, not being able to adapt to the times. like reprimanding my team for like listening to YouTube or watching YouTube videos. And it was more so like an old school thing. Like I just couldn't figure out how can you work while watching videos. And now I'm like, oh, that's how you do it, because I'm watching the ID channel all day.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
The last two projects, they've been out of the house as well.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned you already, the last one I finished. That was definitely it was just calling people around the country, asking them to try the new pods that they have, the coffee pods. And they were all, I was calling, all of them were roasters around the country. Yeah. And that was out of the house, as is this one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I find I get a lot more done. So like, I'm probably going to start working with a new client. I have two that will require like some on-site time. And I get it, because it does help to have like FaceTime and things like that. But like this one client I'm working with, I went on site twice, a day and a half, and the rest of the time is remote, because what I told them is that the reality is I get so much more work done when I'm not around people. I know that's weird to say, but you know, my Myers-Briggs is INTJ. I am like very like tunnel vision focused. I get a lot of things done in solitude. I'm an introverted person. You can't see that right now because I like talking to you guys, but the truth is that I'm an introvert. so I like being in my home office. You know, I enjoy that. Like most of the time the lights are off and I'm just cranking. But if I'm physically in the office, I'm just not as productive. So I tell them, like, I know that it's probably important for you to see me occasionally, but you're not going to get the best bang for your buck with me physically being here. You want me remote. So.
In my case, it takes a few minutes to get rolling because it's 5:30 or 6 when it's 9 back east. And, but once, you know, by that 6:30, it's just like the middle of the day.
Yeah, that's true. So. That's true, especially with the time change. That's not helping anything.
Yeah, that was an adjustment too, right? That hour. Yeah.
I'm still getting used to it. So do you have any ideas or things that you would want to cover next time?
Oh, at the top of my head, let me put a little thinking, because when you said you had some people signing up already, was there a subject with
nope.
that? Okay.
No. And like this one, we were supposed to cover Black Friday. Is that right? Yes.
Staffing in the holidays.
Staffing for the holidays, which I'm just going to put out the deck and let people just chip away at it. But yeah, I mean, I guess what I'll do, because I think it just depends on who signs up. We can just kind of like have the conversation and flow the way that it needs to, and I'll just keep a backup topic ready in case.
Okay. One of the things that I was thinking about, and certainly this is definitely an avenue, is from a customer experience standpoint, the first of the year.
Yeah.
What are people doing? What are they doing different? Do they, you know, it's a great time to, you know, implement something because it's the new, and I'm doing this, and I'm now going to work out, you know, for more than 2 weeks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But from a customer service, you know, standpoint, you know, that would be, or at least one of them, that what do companies do?
Like
that sort of thing.
I love it. So we'll put that on for next time. I'll send out an update and we'll get some feedback, because you're right, just like we have New Year's resolution for ourselves, I'm pretty sure like the start of that for most companies, that new budget means new things. So what are you going to do?
From a personal standpoint, you know, I think I mentioned last week when you said coffee with Ty, you know, you're talking about coffee. The coffee season is the best in the winter because it's so cold in most places except where we are. In most places, it's, you know, they're grabbing for it faster than we are. So again, the first of the year they implement, you'll see it, you know, even in the retail, more so than, you know, you always have the Thanksgiving, the Christmas and all that stuff, but you'll see the first of the year as well. So anyway.
Well, I'm an avid coffee drinker. Like yesterday when we were at dinner, of course I ordered coffee with dessert because you have to do that. And I was telling my friend that I said, sometimes I try to cut back to like 1 cup a day. And she's like, I can't even imagine that from you. So I don't drink alcohol, but I drink coffee. So coffee is like my thing.
There we go. So if you had it with dinner, you had to have been up a little while last night.
Well, I had decaf.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, it doesn't really affect me, which is kind of funny. Like the one that I'm drinking today is the electric buzz from Trader Joe's, and you would think it does something, but like if I needed to take a nap, I could.
Gotcha.
But thank you for joining. We'll do it again next month. If you have any feedback, thoughts, ideas you want to send to me, like don't hesitate. You know, I'm always open to learning more and hearing. But next time we'll talk about New Year's resolutions, and I'm going to send the like snippets of this out, and then I'll also send the recording so that you can have it in case there's any part of it that you're like, hey, you know, what did we cover there? Like,
cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And again, thank you both for
Thanks,
your time.
You're so welcome. Thank you guys for joining. I'll talk to you next time.
Take care.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.